Oh, I'm so excited. We're Sweet 16 have never been kissed. Sweet 16 reminds me of that movie, 16 Candles.
We were just laughing about that.
Where Jim has two things in common.
Oh,
Sweet
boy.
16, and he loves the movie, and he is totally infatuated and has a lifelong crush on Molly Ringwald that nobody knows.
Really,
So
Jim?
don't tell anybody. Between sandwiches and Molly Ringwald.
That looked like me in high school on the left.
You know,
I think you were scrawnier than him, though.
I think
you were puny.
He had me by 20 pounds.
you know, he says something in the movie that I've heard Jerry say countless times. Can I borrow your underwear for 10 minutes?
Banzai!
That's Dave.
That's Dave. Hey, yeah. Speaking of that, we've got a new member. We've got Long Duck Dong with us today here on Sweet 16. Super Dave. Hi, Super Dave. How was the drive from Kansas 3 days ago?
Very familiar.
Ooh.
Been here before.
Did you stop anywhere on the way?
Everywhere, some racetracks, and
Hotels.
I have to work.
He's like a trucker. He drives 8 hours and he sleeps.
8 hours.
He's got one of those log books.
I really respect the way you handle your rig there, driver.
Yeah.
You want a donut?
You want a donut, Super Dave?
Not yet. I don't want anybody to see me eat it.
Why?
Just sprinkle one in there.
No, I
Sprinkles.
don't.
Sprinkles are for winners,
God,
Dave.
No, I hate sprinkles. Ugh.
Sprinkles are for winners.
Oh, I was going to eat that. No, you just took it. I ain't going to eat it now.
There's a chocolate one in the next box. I looked earlier.
I have the chocolate one over here with the white icing on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There's
That's
Stop,
donut,
Jim.
chocolate icing.
That's like a blueberry one. I picked these out myself.
Did you?
Yeah, I like these.
What about these bottom ones? Were they already just
These are just glazed.
Do you have a granddaughter yet?
Not yet.
Wednesday, maybe.
No?
Wednesday's when they got her scheduled, so
Tuesday?
we're down to the last 48 hours.
She's probably
I'm so
ready.
glad I'm not a woman. Could you imagine having a creature grow inside you? Think about that. We're all men, right? So
Yeah.
none of us know what it would like to have a baby grow inside of you. We're not females, but I just
Jerry?
cannot imagine that. It's just, to me, it's the greatest thing ever, but it's also got kind of it's kind of weird, you know, and the baby moving inside her and stuff. But she's
When you
doing
see like
good.
a hand poke out their belly, or like when
Yeah,
when they
I mean,
kick or
she's
something.
doing good. I think she's ready to have the baby.
And
You
she's
know?
ready to like
She's to
get
that
out
point.
my belly.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a moment where enough is enough, and like this
Yeah.
thing's got to go.
I think she's there. So
And Jerry,
exciting.
when do you do?
What's that?
When do you do?
About 3 days before you, Jim.
Gotcha. And the twins doing well inside?
Oh yeah, no. Well, yeah. I mean, your triplets are gonna. What are you gonna name them? Long Duck and Dong? Is that your triplets' names?
that's Dave's baby.
Super
Jerry,
Dave,
Ryan,
we've
and
talked
Brett.
about you forever, and people wanted to have you in here.
Well, he started driving over here like January 6th or 7th, didn't you?
Took him a minute.
Here we are, the 1st of August, and Dave just showed up.
You've had a busy schedule,
I
Dave.
have to work.
I know.
That's right. Somebody-
See, now you know how it feels to be me. You get busted on all day long for just doing you, and bang, here you come.
In his defense, he has drove all over the country, literally. You drove to like Portland, didn't you?
I drove, to Oregon and Washington State. Yeah.
I'm like, Dave, they make airplanes.
Yeah.
We have one. It's
Had
called-
dinner with
it's called-
PJ Rizzo.
right.
You guys
Oh,
went out
yeah.
for dinner one night.
PJ is always ready for a free meal. You can count on that.
Oh, duh.
Every time Dave wants to use the plane, Jim's got it in Maui.
Oh, because Jim is selfish like that.
I know. He is
Absolutely.
he is such a selfish individual. He monopolizes
Absolutely.
Air Force or IMCA 1, IMCA 1.
I thought it was Spec.
IMCA.
Spec Part 1.
Spec one.
Spec Part
We
1.
we still have the GM plane from selling all the crate motors. They give us a
Ugh.
private jet. We
Yeah.
could always use that one.
Need a wheel sticker for that plane? Is that required?
Yeah, it's like we got it repainted. I'm getting it repainted, just like Trump got his repainted. I'm getting ours repainted, get a flag on it and stuff.
Hey,
You guys
before
saw
we
that, right?
start, let's give a big shout out to Ric Flair. Wrestled
Woo!
last night at 73.
He wrestled at
He wrestled
73?
last night.
Where did he wrestle?
Oh yeah, you got.
Were you
had to
there,
look
Jim?
it up. No, I wish. Jamie got the pay-per-view.
Son of a bitch! I miss. I
Hey,
mean,
it's
was
at
it-
73. He took the blade and bled like a stuffed hog. You got to give him credit for that.
Good Lord.
If there's one guy that has more scars on his forehead, it's Ric Flair.
Well, that's the blade,
He
Jerry.
just every time.
Whack him over the head with a chair.
They'll open one of them up.
Yeah, you'll open a scar. You looking into Ric Flair there,
I
right?
am. It
That's
says
a
his
tough way
last
to
match
write it.
was a bloody, grueling war and a whole lot of fun. I've had dates like that.
Oh boy.
We're not touching that one.
No.
Not
Been
even.
to a racetrack.
So our
like
last
that, too.
podcast wasn't that long ago. It's like 5 days ago.
I know.
It was actually last week. We're doing it back to back. Have we done one back to back weeks yet?
Oh, yeah.
It's been close. Yeah. I mean, maybe
In the
Usually
beginning,
been a couple
right?
weeks.
in the beginning when we were all.
They
like,
started to
not busy.
fade off for a little bit. They got farther apart, it seemed like. And
Well,
I'm like, uh-oh.
you know, between Nate's schedule and Jerry's and
Well, Nate-
Jim's, and
Nate was in the North Dakota, and so
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Yep.
we need Nate in the command center. So
Yeah, we can't do
makes
this.
all
We
this
can't be
work.
trusted. We can't be here
No,
unsupervised.
we don't
Makes us
exist
sound
without Nate.
intelligent, right, Nate?
He actually just makes us sound a lot of times.
I still think we need one of those buttons. I need one of those boards that has like the buttons like Kramer on Mad Money. You push on it and it goes wah, wah, wah,
Oh, I know it.
just for fun.
Hey,
I
the
don't know
Jim
if I would
Naylor,
use it, but
the Jim Naylor board,
yeah,
like Jim's got up in the press box.
exactly.
I want to know, Nate.
Don't you?
Are we getting a telestrator?
What's that?
So
You
we
and I
can
have
draw.
talked about the telestrator.
Tony Romo deal.
Like John Madden used to draw, and then boom, draw pictures.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
Nate-
we can
Nate-
draw on the
So
screen.
I can. Well, no, we're talking for Super Nationals. So like when we get the replays, I can be like my John Madden here. Boom, and it happened here, and then the
Yeah.
car went over here, and bang, bang, bang.
Sparklers and snakes.
And then you can
You
circle
draw-
the sparklers
you
and
can draw a
snakes.
little snake.
Yeah, and have like a little firework thing.
You guys have a lot of
Don't
free
you have
time,
one?
don't you?
Don't you have one? Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Don't you have one of those things that you can play music and stuff and push buttons and sounds?
I've got one of those old things.
Do you use it
That's
much?
been around.
No,
over
no,
there.
those 360. I mean, I've never. To be honest with you, I'd actually have to find it. I can't.
That
remember
used to
what's
be
at.
what was used.
So
over
you're
there,
not
wasn't it?
using that then? You're
No, I know there's. I've got two of them. One's at the racetrack in Boone, and the other one's somewhere in my garage.
So I was gonna say, so do you use an iPad to control all of the like when you put music?
Oh yeah, it's all on my
Yeah.
computer. It's all through my computer.
When
Gotcha,
you play
drives
Green
everything.
Acres 90 goddamn times a night, where does that come from?
It comes from the computer straight to your ears.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
It's just one of those things that inquiring minds probably wanted to know.
Yeah.
At least mine did.
No, it's okay.
I think a telestrator would be fun.
Telestrator to be awesome.
Oh, it would be trouble.
Trouble.
There would be so
Absolutely
many
trouble.
inappropriate looking. I mean, you'd be like,
We
We
would
wouldn't
not
be
draw any
inappropriate.
dongs.
I'd be like, there, yeah, he
Speak
fell
for
out.
yourself.
Okay. I
fell
I
out.
might make a W with a couple dots on the middle of the bottom or something, but
Down the backstretch and around the. No, we're not going there. Anyhow,
do you think you could draw a good one,
We're
Ryan?
professional. We
Yeah,
would,
yeah, we are
would,
professional. We would not do anything dumb with a
Our
telestrator.
Slide
shenanigans are
job to
off.
take a whole new meaning.
yeah.
Driving in the wet.
Muddy on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
This is so much stranger in person.
The jokes just keep coming. Yeah, it is.
Stuck it in the number one hole.
Oh, Lord.
Wish
Backed into the second
So-
hole.
Wish Ben Seaman would start racing
Yeah.
again.
Cox on top.
So
Johnson hung low.
Kids,
Balls
kids,
deep in turns 1 and 2.
Kids. Girls
Are we
jumping on
just gonna-
trampolines.
That's,
Yeah,
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
call
put
it.
I
girls-
mean, that's just how we announce. I mean,
We're gonna put girls jumping on trampolines in the next episode.
I
We
know
are.
it. You keep
We're
saying
gonna
that.
go back to the old man show stuff.
I politely request next episode off. I have some PTO to burn.
You
Still
have something
searching.
against trampolines?
No.
Still searching for the line here, aren't you?
Yeah,
Don't know
we
where.
are.
Don't know
We
where
are.
it is.
It kind of moves from episode to episode, from
Yeah.
podcast to
Super
podcast.
Dave, what's the biggest rules infraction you've seen all year long?
We're gonna
Well,
talk
according
rules.
to you guys, it's
Talk about crossing
fighting in the
lines.
pits or whatever, or
No, I mean,
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
There we
yeah,
go.
but
Yeah.
you don't really have anything to do with that.
Not unless it
We're
happens
talking-
right in front
Unless,
of you.
unless some guy like whacks you or something, then it's
And my answer usually is like, not here. I don't tell them not to.
This is actually a common thing. We deal with it. I just got one this morning, a video this morning. People just take pictures. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a video recorder in their pocket now. So people just take videos, the races, and every time somebody shoves somebody or punches somebody or flips somebody off or drives through the pits fast, you name it, the list of stuff that we get video-wise just rolls right in. And I guess we're supposed to, as a sanction, just watch the video and just start flipping out.
Ooh, are you going to
fines?
make it rain?
Fine them. But the reality is we really don't do that. Even if we're there, generally speaking, just so people understand this, generally speaking, even if we're there and something kind of crazy goes down, if I witness it, I'll be like, okay, that probably was uncalled for, maybe. And we always talk to the promoter, and ask them, what do you, because a lot of facilities handle it themselves. And just because we're there as an association doesn't necessarily mean that we issue the penalty, because it's still, at the end of the day, most, these events are controlled by the track operators, by the promoters. We're sanctioning it. And we don't necessarily fine people without their knowledge, without the promoter's endorsement or knowledge, or without their racetrack saying, I would like your involvement.
Here's what I want to do.
Some tracks handle it themselves. Most racetracks handle it themselves.
It's a
Just
consequence.
because we're there, it's got to be handled consistently at that track.
Correct.
Just the way it is.
Could have had something happen. The same thing happened the week before. We weren't there, and we fine a guy because we're there, and the guy the week before didn't get fined. Or the next week, the guy doesn't get fined. And then people start saying, well, you only fined him because, whatever the.
Y'all got to fine because IMCA was here. You won't do it when they're not
You
here.
only
think I
fined
was
him
standing
because
next
there's
to
flow
you.
racing on the side of his car.
Yeah, I was standing next to you in Marshalltown a couple of weeks ago, and you had a report that there was an incident in the pits. And
Yeah, I get a
I
text.
said, so you going to turn that in? Or he said, nope, my people took care of it. So
Yeah,
we're good.
It was one of those deals. I said, Ryan goes, did anybody see it? I said, I think they saw the aftermath. I said, but I don't think they've seen the initial incident. I said, you don't see it. You don't see it. You can't do
And
anything.
it happens in lots of sports, right?
Yeah.
It is
If
a competitive environment like that, you know what I mean? And particularly if a guy thinks he's got it in the bag and then he comes home with a 0, he's mad. But those are competitive people. And if you're a competitive person, you can understand how it can get like that.
Yeah.
So
if we were out just looking for money to make off of fines, we just follow Shyrock and Mills around every race.
Apparently,
that'd be good for.
Yeah.
I'm
That'd
laughing
be
at the
good for
picture you
500
got.
a race.
I'm
It's the
laughing
girls
at
on trampolines.
It's close.
Was that a Google search, or what's that from?
Oh, Jim.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Jim has nothing better
Because
to
I
do.
know those beautiful women are not anywhere near your presence, Jim.
the funniest thing
That's
that
a live shot from my backyard right now in Maui.
funniest thing that just happened so far was as soon as girls on trampoline came up, everybody shut up and turned. Did you catch that? Just dead silent.
Just had to
Wait,
look.
one of these days, Nate's going to catch us off guard.
Yeah, one of these days, Nate's going to put something up there. And we're going to be
We're all going to get in trouble. The
Can you
FCC.
control his green screen, Nate?
The FCC.
Oh.
Is that FCC? Is that like that airplane thing? Is that FEC?
That's FAA. And
We're under
FCC is means
We're,
if I
we're under
if-
the same
if-
rules
if-
as Howard
Federal-
Stern.
yeah,
It's
if I would
aviation
if we
administrator.
We've
would
got
drop
lots
the
of rules.
F-bomb on a
Yeah.
live
we have a
broadcast.
Or if you slap somebody that was given an award.
No, there's really. I mean, you can do that. That's
They
okay.
edited that.
This is a
though.
good
Well, yeah,
slap.
they
And he
edited
can
it.
apologize 4 months later.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
apologize, and it all goes away.
No, it was well done. He slapped the crap out of
He
him.
slapped him, but on live TV they edited it out, so it almost looked like it was choreographed, but it really wasn't. It
'Cause
actually did happen.
The delay, yeah. A lot of rules for broadcast don't apply to online or subscription
You ever been,
services.
You ever been slapped at being an MC someplace, Jerry? You
I've
walk
slapped
up-
him.
I mean,
I've
Ryan
slapped
has,
him
but
a
I
few
mean, nobody's ever like
No, I
walked up
haven't.
and
I haven't
smacked
done
me in
that.
the mouth or anything.
No.
No, I think some people just common sense kicks in and says, I might get in trouble if I do
It's
that.
Jerry. What do
It's
we
Jerry,
expect?
what do we expect? He's just an idiot
It kind of fits what we started talking about. You can put that picture down. It kind of fits what we started talking about with just fines and unsportsmanlike conduct. So
Right.
there's lots and lots of them, and we're in a very competitive setting.
right.
And so people say, "What are you going to do about that?" I'm like, the way I look at it in many instances is when the racers don't care is when you should probably worry much more than when they do care. And people that are mad about stuff that happens on the racetrack, they're passionate about what happened. They feel they've been wronged.
That's right. That same fire is what causes a guy to put on a hell of a show some days.
Yeah.
So you need him to be lit and moving and
You see guys get sent to the back, and you can tell they're madder than hornets, and they race their way to the front, win races. We've seen guys actually do that,
Yeah, I just saw
It's a
Travis.
motivating factor, and I think that obviously the competitive nature of racing creates that. And I had a promoter tell me one time, and I don't know if I said this or not. I had a promoter tell me one time, "Don't you sterilize my pit area." That's what he said to me. I'm like,
Lottie.
That's a good way to put it.
That's what he
Could I
told
have
me.
Robert Lawton for 50, please?
That's what he told me. Don't you sterilize my pit area. Because Boone is kind of like Marshalltown. A little bit at times, Marshalltown is like
it can
us,
get
us East Siders over here in Eastern Iowa. You know, when I was younger, you go to Marshalltown, you better like, or the Gustons better like you.
Yep. And you better have a dentist on.
Because if
on
you
board.
cross a path with somebody and say the wrong thing, you know you're going to get your mouth punched.
Yep.
You know, and that's just, I think there's a lot of, I just think
Kind of
that's,
like
I
doing
just
the
think that's the way
killings
the
wrong at the
sport is at
fairgrounds.
times. People want us to stop that at times, and sometimes, it's a little inappropriate. But
Yeah, the worst is a guy starts the fight, then he loses a fight, then he comes over and, well, what are you going to do about that? And I'm like, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
You went over there and you started it, and then you lost, and now you're mad because you lost twice.
yeah,
You know, don't start it.
I like John Webb at Southern Oklahoma's pit meetings. He's not going to do, his staff's not going to do anything to break it up. So you go into a guy's pit, you better be sure you're going to whip his ass because it's on and you're not going to get protected.
My thing of it is, I think, we talk about it, and sometimes I go by the theory of, just treat it like a hockey fight. Let them go till they fall to the ground, and then pounce in and take care of it.
Yeah, as long as
But you watch a good hockey. Because that was the deal with hockey fights. They get the officials get in the middle of it, and 9 times out of 10, the official gets his ass kicked and tooth knocked out or sent to the hospital because he
chicken
whatever.
winged.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you just let him go to the ground. You get him on the ground. You just lay on top of him, and you're done. Here,
Some of
pull you
those
apart,
promoters
pull
will
them
say,
apart.
"Don't fight," but if you're going to do it,
Do it on the
my
front
front straightaway.
stretch.
I'll pay you to do it on the front
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
I'll fine you $250 back here, but I'll pay you $100 up front.
The
I've
old
heard more than
Chris
one
Kern
promoter say that.
T-shirts.
Yeah, Chris Kearns had
If
a
you're going to
t-shirt.
fight, do it on the front stretch. If you're going to wreck big.
Yeah.
That's my theory. If you're going to fight a guy, just do it where everybody can see. Because we want to see how tough you are.
Correct.
I'm not lying about that. Because if you think you can whoop another man's ass, I want to see you whoop another man's ass. It'd be a good time.
Yeah, I could live without all that.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, I
times
can
where
too,
could
but-
say I
but-
agree with you, Dave.
One of the consequences of tech is
Can't we all just get along?
we're right there where everybody can find us. They can't find everybody. They can't always find a promoter or anybody else, but you can always find tech guy because tech area doesn't move.
You can always find a tech guy in the staging area.
That's right. So a lot of times it ends up in your lap if you're in tech. It ends up over there. So that's why, like, not in front of me. I have Alta mess, and it tends to grow legs and get bigger, and people get braver when they think somebody's there to break it up. They don't go over there in between two trailers typically and start that fight.
I'm kind of the opposite. I like to see a good fight every now and then.
Ric Flair. Woo!
Woo!
Woo! Oh, well. Well, so we really don't have much of an agenda.
You don't have anything on your.
I wrote,
I mean,
I wrote down Dave Brand rules.
You actually wrote that down and brought your
That's-
computer in.
that's-
That's-
Yeah,
that's,
I thought you brought that just in for a
Our
visual
last
aid.
podcast was July 26th. I got 5 lines here. Dave Brand rules.
Big,
Well, you know
broad
what?
topic.
We also got some big races coming up this week. Night of
We have lots of
1,000
races
and-
coming up.
The ton
Night
of racing.
of 1,000 and 10,000 stars at the Hancock County Speedway, with probably one of the most unique purses we've seen in a long time.
Well, we got races tonight in Spencer.
You
We
going
got
up there, Jerry?
Harris Clash tomorrow night. Then we've got
Alta Wednesday,
Alta.
Ulta
in Buena
Alta.
Vista County.
on Wednesday.
the Beaver,
Alta
The
View.
Then
Beaver.
back to Algona, right? On
Yep.
Thursday.
or the
Thursday.
Brit.
Brit
There they
Friday,
all
And then
are.
to
Saturday.
Brit and Brit. Yeah. Lots of races
Do
going
you
on.
re-
Iowa
do you
Speed
re-
Week.
Do you realize if you run 10th at Brit on Saturday night, you'll make twice as much money as the unsanctioned Duel in the Desert pays for the same position?
Oops.
Oops, and you spend about what? 1/10 of the entry fee.
I suppose. And depending on where you live, the gas costs. But
Yeah.
Anyhow.
And I think you can even drive a 4-wheeler at Brit for under $100.
Can you go on the infield without having to buy another pit pass?
They allow one pit pass gets all access. in
All
the pits.
access? Can you go into the grandstands?
Access.
All
Yeah,
access
it's
pit
unprecedented. I mean, they're breaking ground up in
Sweet.
Britt, Iowa, with the all access pit pass.
Is there anywhere I can't go with this pit pass?
Probably the ladies' bathroom.
Oh, that's a good choice.
But we could sell you a pass for that.
Well, I wouldn't expect to get in for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Night of 1,000
Yeah, that's gonna
Stars,
cost you
the Night of
to
10,000 Stars. It's been one of those events that for many years has been on our what's the word you
Radar.
want to use? Radar.
Radar.
Yeah, people. What are these crown?
A lot of people
say
crown
crown
jewels.
jewels.
I think that term is overused.
I do too. It's a crown.
Yeah, what
jewel.
exactly is a crown jewel?
It is a.
Is that just
Special
based
race.
on what it pays to win?
It is. I see. I like to use the term. It is a marquee event.
Marquee event is good.
Yeah.
Crown jewel to me seems more like if you run like golf, it would be one of the 4 major championships.
Yes.
Something that
But those aren't
sets it
crown
apart
jewels. Those
from-
are the 4 major championships.
right, but I
too.
mean, I
But you
still
look at
think
the
that
crown jewels like horse racing.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
look at the 3,
That's
It's just
triple
one of
crown.
those.
the triple crown. I mean, I think people use those terms way too loosely. And
Yeah.
it takes away from the effect of
I
it.
would agree.
Yeah.
Well, what
just
I
gets
think
watered
that the
down.
Night of 1,000 Stars has, it's got time. That's a race that's been going on since about 95, 6, something like
been
that.
around a long time.
1995 was the exact date, and the reason it ended up. See, a lot of people forget why it ended up in Brett.
Oh, I don't even know if you know the whole story, Jared. I don't know if we have time to get into that.
It was actually scheduled.
At
At the
No,
Boone
that's not
Speedway.
true.
Yeah, it was.
No, it was a 2-night show. The first night got rained out at Boone.
Jim knows this story.
But I
Yeah.
know it was originally scheduled for Boone.
He was the one that Hey Jim,
Didn't he name it?
who named the Night of 1,000 Stars the Night of 1,000 Stars?
I can't remember off the top of my head, or why the person who named it used the Night of 1,000 Stars.
Well, I know what was going on at that.
There's some backdrop to
there's
it.
yeah there's
That was
The
the
some
guys
behind
first
the
year
scenes.
that a racer these days would never know. And it
That's
doesn't really
right.
matter to the racers these days, to be quite honest.
But
That-
1995, the Night of 1,000
Do
Stars.
you
is
even
what
know this
put-
story, Dave?
I do not. I'm waiting.
Dave don't even know this
We'll go
story,
off
Jim.
camera for the whole story.
We keep all the good secrets from Dave.
I get this a
Yeah.
lot, honestly, when I come to Iowa in particular and everything. Everybody thinks I'm from here, and I've lived here my whole life. And then they talk to me, and they spit out names and other things, and I'm like, no.
What?
Nope. Who? Nope. Wasn't me.
I'm just from nowhere, Kansas.
I mean, I've been to, this will be my 22nd Super Nationals, working at 22nd Super Nationals, but this year was the first year I ever went to a Boone Weekly. Never been there before on a
I
regular
know, you
weekly show.
were.
It was strange.
Did you disqualify anybody?
Just the sport mod with the aluminum heads.
Oops.
I looked
You
down.
can't do that.
I looked down.
Not
Then I
legal.
looked up. Then I looked back down and got the magnet out. And when I looked back up, he looked at me and he went,
Yep.
just
Because that's
He
my
didn't
That-
alternative.
he's like,
My
yep, that magnet works.
Yeah,
Hey, Dave,
he didn't blink.
like I always say, you have to know what you own.
Yeah. Surely
have
when
to
he's
know
putting
what
them
you
on
own.
there, he was thinking, these are light. Something.
The
Anyways,
stuff that we see, that you see.
sometimes people just get a little desperate and they blew up motor and this is all I got, so I'm going to put it in there and run 5th, but he didn't run 5th.
He ran
No.
top 4.
Didn't he
Dave,
win
I
that? He
think
won
you
that
give
heat,
people
I
a little
think.
more, too much faith. Usually those deals are purposely planned out in order to gain an advantage over the
I don't
competition.
know. A race car looked like it'd been around
Yeah,
the
when you
block
go-
for a while.
Yeah.
I guess he's had that race car for quite a while and probably had that motor laying somewhere for quite a while.
Yeah, okay. Those are the. It's kind of like the claim. It's like any rule. What point in time does the person that say, okay, I shouldn't be doing this? You put an aluminum headed engine in a sport mod. I just love to be involved in that conversation as the engine's getting put in the shop. And you're going, okay, you think they're going to catch this?
Yeah, I mean,
They're like, well,
engine
at some
feels
if
point
like-
Brett's
during
there, they probably won't catch it. But if
during
Dave
the-
shows up, we're screwed.
during the process somewhere, it has to click with somebody like, if we get caught, what's the penalty? Because no one really knows until it happens. I ask everybody, you realize what this? Nope. What's the rule say? I don't know. I mean, we print them and they're online 24 hours a day. You can read them. It's
And
free.
we haven't got any of the, can you run aluminum cylinder heads in a sport mod questions this year? A lot of times we'll get questions that are rule questions.
Could I run a left side aluminum head with a right side cast iron?
That was one of the
9
more
to 1
interesting
on this
issues
one.
when
You can do a lot of things once.
Yeah.
So
when you texted me that, I was like, I had to read it twice. I'm like, what? Did that really just happen? But it did.
yeah, it kind of caught me off
Yeah.
guard. I thought it was
I bet
kind of
it
funny.
did.
I thought, really? It's a first for me.
But anyhow, when I first started working at IMCA, 22 years, you wouldn't have been even helping us at all. But Bob was our director of competition.
I was
Oh,
there
yeah.
last year. Bob was there.
Yeah, which would have been like 99-ish.
Is it?
Like 98.
I thought it was
No,
2000.
It was after that.
Was it?
Yeah.
2000?
It was into the 2000s.
When Bob left, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob was like 2001, 2002.
When
I
the
think he was
twins
early
were born,
2000.
he left, right?
Yeah.
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 So
They're
They
21.
just had a birthday.
Yeah, they turned
They just had-
21
this
Sunday,
weekend,
this
yeah.
weekend. So it's been 21 years.
I learned two things from Bob that just sticks in my head from when I travel with him and just when he was our competition director. One was breakfast burritos at McDonald's. I mean, the first person I've ever seen eat a breakfast burrito was Bob Ross. We go to McDonald's and he orders the 2 burrito meal,
yeah.
and I get like an egg McMuffin or something like that. I'm like, who in the world eats breakfast burritos? And Bob's, that's the first person I ever saw eat them. And I attribute my somewhat infatuation with those things now to that
Oh,
conversation
that's-
with Bob.
That
I remember.
son of a bitch.
I just eat those stupid.
We-
That's all I
we've
get
paid
at
for it ever
McDonald's in the
since.
morning. I'm like, who would waste their time getting an egg McMuffin? When you have 2 breakfast burritos
I
with a
remember we
mild
used to-
picante sauce.
it's
You know, so
convenient. It's super easy to eat while you're driving down
Yeah,
the
you just
highway.
put the sauce on it and
I just
let it
remember
rip.
pre-COVID, we had a Hispanic fellow that was one of their local churches there in Des Moines, and he would come in, and I mean, 3 times a week, about 8:30, 9 o'clock, shop full of guys that hadn't had anything to eat. Some of them still hungover, some of them might still been drunk. Breakfast burrito, $3, and these things were huge. Oh man.
That's how
They're so good.
His wife and daughters made them for the church, and the money went to the church. So then COVID hit, and then he never came back.
That's how we used to get in the early Super Nationals when I first started going and whatnot. That's how we got into gate early all the time. There's a pretty big kid working the gate all the time, so we would leave the hotel and go through McDonald's and then bring
Right
in something to
in
eat.
with
And he'd open the gate and we're right in there.
The other thing I learned from Bob: don't ever run a diesel out of gas, ever.
No, dude, no.
And I might have told this in another podcast.
You
I
can
can't
play the
Base
game with
this
a
on
gas
experience
engine.
then?
all
I
day
thought
long.
I thought he was going to kill me one time because we were coming. I think it was PRI. I'm almost certain we were coming back from PRI. It was cold and we were somewhere in Illinois. And I was like, I'm just going to get to the next exit. He goes, "Don't you ever run a diesel that low? If this runs out of gas, we'll be here for 5 days," or some crazy thing like that.
The old school mechanical injection
yes,
thing.
yeah. So
Yeah,
never
never.
run a diesel out of gas.
I mean, the newer ones you
Speaking
can.
of running
It's-
out of gas, Dave, have you ran out of gas lately?
I have not.
That's a lie.
What?
We need a polygraph on him.
Did you play the game and lose?
My
He doesn't
van,
drive a
my new
diesel.
van doesn't even have that on there.
Yeah.
Miles to empty or
Doesn't have a
anything.
gas
Come
gauge,
on. I
apparently.
mean, Jim and I play the game all the time in travels,
yeah.
and we've won.
I told
I'm
you we were
just
going to
saying,
talk
Never,
about this.
never been beat yet.
Okay,
Purely
so now you
hypothetical.
and I have talked about your old van because I played the game in your old van many times. So you told me you were going to get the new van figured out,
He did.
and now you figured out when it's going to run out of gas.
By 3/4 of a mile.
That's
know
It's not much
exactly.
warning.
That right there.
But
is
you
a
know what?
kick to the what.
It solved some mystery. Well, what happened was I'm coming up on.
mysteries.
So how many
least
miles
now
past
you
zero
know.
could you go?
Well, I wanted to know first if the mileage thing that calculates it all the time was accurate.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to know how far I could get on the tank. So I fill it right to the top
And I
somewhere.
wanted to know if it would actually run out.
Oh yeah, and if you're gonna run out, do it in South Dakota because there's a gas
There's
station on every corner in
There's-
South Dakota.
There is?
No,
That's
no.
what I mean.
I think he was
And
being
so-
sarcastic.
He's going across the Great Salt Lake.
So, anyways, and the other thing I wanted to know was, how far it would go. Well, the phone rang, and I'm passing a truck, and I know where my turn is, and so I answer the phone, and it's hands-free, right? And I'm driving along, and then I get just past the exit, going down the hill, right past, and then it's like, boom, I look down, and I realize, there's no RPMs, right? And I'm like, whoop. So I whip it over the
lights are still
side.
working.
Yeah. I had to go 3/4 of a mile back. It wasn't that far.
The walk of shame.
Yeah, it was
Did you hitchhike?
appropriate. No, but
So
some guy
when-
did stop and give me a ride back.
So when you run out of gas, because I've never, that I recall, I've seen it.
Done it once.
So you walk
I
back
almost
to
did
the
it
gas
once with
station,
him.
and you just borrow a gas can at that point?
No, you
You bought one for
No,
You
no,
bought
that's
one
not, that's
for-
not the truth. That's not the truth because Grant and I, we played
Make
the
you buy
game.
him?
Grant and I played the game coming to the national banquet a couple 2-3 years ago, and we ran out because we were coming right to the museum. There's a corner there where you turn right. You know, once you come off of 77 and turn there, then you turn right. We could see Speedway. We could see it, and all of a sudden we pull up to the stoplight, and he goes, "Oh shit!" I go, "We ran out of gas, didn't we?" He goes, "Yep." So I'm
In
like,
the intersection?
yeah,
Oh,
we're in
that's
the
worse.
intersection.
That's a
So we
bad
throw
place.
the flashers on, and we go over to the gas station. I'm well aware I'm going to buy a gas can. Walk in, I says, "Hey," I said, "You guys got any gas cans for sale?" He goes, "Let me guess, you ran out of gas at the corner." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You ain't gonna be the first, you won't be the last." He says, "Give me $5 and go fill this gas can up and bring the gas can back." We went up, filled the gas can up because he wanted a $5 deposit for the gas can because it's a $2.99 gas can.
Oh,
So-
no. A gas can is not $2.99
I think
anymore.
back then it was. It was just a little 2.5 gallon one. It
Oh,
wasn't
that's-
like a
yeah.
5 gallon. I mean, it was a little gallon.
2.5 gallon one's
Yeah.
probably about, I'm going to guess, $25.
Well, now, but I mean,
If
back
you have
then.
to buy one at the convenience store,
Yeah.
3/4 of a
Lord.
mile back.
Holy
It's a nice
cow.
one. So
We should
needless
get in
to
the
say,
gas
So
can
needless
business.
to say, we then went over and gave the gas can back
it's
to
a
the
learning
nice-
experience because now I have 2.5 gallons of gas everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So the only
So technically, from now on, because you have a gas can in your car, you're not going
that's
to be playing
exactly
the game.
what's going to happen. That's
I remember
exactly
once
what's gonna
Brett and I
happen.
went to Alta. I don't know if you remember this or not.
One of us.
And we were on our way. I don't know where we were, in the middle of nowhere. You were.
Somewhere between Fort Dodge and where we
Do you remember this? And he was running
There's
out of
no
gas.
gas stations over
No.
there.
So he I think you were on the phone too, and you forgot about it, and then your light came on, so you took this exit, went through one of the small towns over there. We went by 3 or 4 gas stations because he refused to stop at these gas stations.
I do the same thing. Oh, see,
They
how
weren't
far
a
I go.
Casey's.
What's that?
They weren't a Casey's?
No. It was years ago.
Probably
It was 10 years ago, probably. It was before Casey's.
before
Before Casey's came on board.
before the Supernational sponsorship.
Yeah, and
Oh.
you were not going to stop at these gas stations, and we made it to where we were going to go, but I thought,
I'm
are
loyal.
you kidding me?
Because there for the longest time, and even for the longest time since they did it, from Fort Dodge to Early, there was no place along Highway 20 to stop.
Yeah.
What about
You had to go to
later?
Rockwell City, or you had to go up to Pocahontas, or you had to come way off of there. And then they built that.
There's-
Built that one right there on Highway 4, and then it burned to the ground. So
What
like
about
for
later, Jerry?
what's that?
Was there one later? You said there wasn't one early, but what about later?
Yeah, but somewhere, yeah, exactly. But Early is a little town, Jim.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
Yes, it's okay. I mean, I don't.
Jim's a little slow, Jerry.
just
Yeah,
a little.
I'm a little slow.
But yeah, I mean that was where you truly figured out where you had to. And I mean, even if you wanted to get a sandwich or something, you couldn't have got a sandwich.
There was a time when I was working for Speedway Motors where me and the legend Kevin Larkins, Jerky King, we left Indian. We had a truck full of stuff.
Jerky?
And no jerky. We basically had a coffin teetered over some pedal cars that Speedy Bill had gotten. And Speedy Bill's last word to us is, don't let anything happen to these pedal cars. They're worth more than the truck and trailer, and they're especially worth more than the 2 idiots driving. So
I knew that Speedy Bill was a smart man. He could.
so we start coming along, and we lose track, and all of a sudden we were sure we could make it to the the big I-80 truck stop, but we didn't. So we got this coffin teetered over this pedal car with I don't know how much. So Kevin is going to slosh the tank to get us some extra miles. So he's going back and forth, and that coffin just starts sliding off towards the pedal car. Needless to say, we didn't make it. A trucker picked us up. We get some gas, and Larkins goes up to a car full of kids. They must have been only, 16, 17. Hey, could you give us a ride back? And they only had room for one. He goes, well, I can jump in the back. Kevin jumps in the back with a gas can, and this 16-year-old girl jumps out of that car screaming like she just saw death.
I mean, it was Kevin.
I don't blame her. And then the next trip we took down to somewhere, I forget where we're going. We ran out of gas again, but we always had fuel jugs on display. in the Speedway booth. So we just grabbed the fuel jug and walked about a mile. That way we always had something to put the gas in.
Speedy Bill, he called it.
Yeah.
Yep,
He did.
He knew what he was talking about, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Super Dave.
Well, Dave,
So we can
talk
talk-
about rules. Would
Let's talk
you?
about rules. Hey, I got a
Talk
question.
about
Dave.
rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
say a guy won a feature event
So
here
a guy
in
wins a
current-
feature, right?
Yeah.
And
What's wrong with this picture, Dave?
What's wrong with this picture? Can you see?
What's wrong with it? Oh, his shoes. I know you're talking about his shoes, right?
Yeah, they're not hey dudes, at least.
I mean,
Yeah.
here, let me see what kind they are.
Yeah, but if
That
they
was one
were,
of my
you'd get a
finer moments.
If
But
they
that-
were,
I
you'd
left-
Oh
get
no,
a
no! See, these
sponsorship
are
out of it.
custom. These are
Those
customs.
are K Swisses.
Those are K Swisses.
Heck
With
yeah.
yellow duct
K
tape.
Swisses
Where's
with
that?
yellow duct tape.
I
Yeah.
remember
Here
those
did you have
shoes.
K
Why would you
Swiss
put?
shoes on?
Why would you put
My
yellow
wife,
duct tape?
my wife still makes fun of me for wearing those shoes to this day. Still
I
makes
mean,
fun of me.
She's probably not
So-
the
So,
only
whoa,
one.
time out.
It-
So what you're telling us now is on Thursday you're going shoe shopping to get some New Balances because you're going to get the old man shoes when you become.
I'm wearing
Grandpa?
on clouds right now. She bought these for me. So,
Oh shit!
Jesus, Dave, we
Can't
bring
bring
you
me-
in here and you
my
tear the
fir-
place apart.
It's my first day.
I knew I should
Look.
attach that sign.
This is how I knew.
Let me
it.
fix
anyhow-
it.
Oh,
Yeah, so-
man.
Got Skechers on.
That was one of my finer moments. I forgot my racing shoes back at my house. I got to the races, right? I'm like, well, okay, whatever. I'll just race without racing shoes. And somebody said, well, your shoe
Was it
strengths-
actually
your
a
sh-
rule though?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was.
I mean, there was a
that's
time when it
That's
wasn't.
an IMCA sanctioned race that I won right there.
And we put that in the
No,
rules
wait, that's
probably about
non-sanctioned
90
B-mod. Never mind.
93,
Independence, it
94.
would've
That
been
was a
That was a
non-sanctioned
B-mod.
B-mod, so it might not have
Alternative-
been there. But there-
Alternative rules.
There was a rule in IMCA that you had to have racing shoes, and I felt like obligated to at least follow safety equipment. But I forgot my shoes, and so somebody said, "Well, make sure you tie your shoelaces or put tape over your shoelaces because they'll get caught in the gas pedal or the brake pedal or the clutch." I'm like,
That seems
"Oh,
bad.
okay."
Makes sense.
So that's why I have yellow tape wrapped
Mm-hmm.
around my white K-Swiss shoes. And then I won that night, and I was like, no kidding. I asked
Scott Fry.
Scott Fry. I asked Scott, I was like, do I have to get out of the car for my picture? And he's like, yeah, you hop out. And I'm like, I'm not wearing racing shoes. I don't want to get out. He's like, it's all right. And so we got out. I was laughing about it. And I'm like, I want to get back in my car. Hurry up. Take a picture. Jump back in.
You know, that's
take
what
off.
I'm going to hear now. Every time it happens, someone's going to be like, well,
Brett
Brett didn't
did
have
it.
any of it.
Brett didn't have on racing shoes.
How long ago was that?
That would have had to been like
Mid-2000?
95.
Oh, 95.
Or, I'm sorry, 2005 or 2006.
That's when Scott Jabring was
So
still
I
taking
wish
pictures.
2005.
was.
Well, action track
So Jim
photos.
Roper would have been the announcer up there.
Yeah.
I
So,
remember.
When it puts me in. You talk about people saying something to
Yeah.
you. It puts me in that situation
Well-
as well. Where it's like if you see a guy's not wearing a neck collar or a guy doesn't have gloves on or something like that, you want to say, "Hey, you can't do that. It's a disqualification." But you know,
Well, that's like,
I should have been disqualified that
Yeah.
night.
We'll see.
You know,
somebody say,
it's kind of like getting a call from a track going, what do we do if a guy leaves his car in the middle of the front stretch and walks away?
That was in the '90s, Jim.
Oh, okay.
That was when
And
I
the
was
picture-
young.
I remember
the
that
pictures from
happening
when?
somewhere.
You did that out here.
And they
didn't you?
just drove up there with a wrecker and
Yeah.
pushed it off.
Yep.
That guy was standing there, you know.
That's what they did to my car too. They hooked the wrecker up and took it
Yeah.
to the
I told
infield.
him to put it in a mud hole.
We had one of those too out here.
And
Yeah.
then it made me. I had to walk of shame myself. It's kind of like you running out of gas. Yeah, I had to walk to the infield and get my car.
Apparently-
it started though. and I
apparently,
just
if you need a
vroom, and I just drove it right back to the pits.
apparently in some racing forms, apparently if you need you think you need a yellow flag, you just get out of your car that's on the infield and go throw your helmet on the racetrack.
So I remember
Yeah.
that car.
Hot child.
I remember
Yeah.
the car more than anything because it was at the banquet in Des Moines when we're introducing sport mods, right?
That was on
Wasn't
display there.
Wasn't that in Des
Yeah.
Moines?
Mhm.
So M&M chassis,
Yeah.
it's things that stick out to me that I still remember. It had a bolt-on rear clip. So the fuel cell and all that was back there, and then the whole bumper section
Yeah,
bolted
you're right.
on or
It
clamped
did.
on. And then it was on the Crown Vic stub,
I never
which
tested that end.
yeah, well, the idea is cool. If you built the car back behind the fuel cell, you know, and then just the bumper and the bracing was replaceable, that would save a lot of time and money for a guy. But you can't have the piece surrounding the fuel cell bolted on.
I was going too fast for
That's
anybody to hit
not
me in the
gonna-
rear end.
But and it was Crown Vic, which was a great idea. So Tom Herbert did a lot of legwork on figuring
did.
out
Yep.
what cars were built and what the possibilities were to start another division of race cars. And
Is that a
so-
Super Nationals winning car there, Brett?
It is, Jim. Didn't quite look like
not
that.
for Brett, but
I think I had my name covered up with tape on it at the time.
He brought that
the
up 4
car-
times in a row.
My leg's starting to cramp now too,
Is
Ryan. It must be
It's
the room.
contagious. Must be the room. Maybe it's the chairs.
But the concept was good because there were like 8 million of these cop cars. Crown
Yeah,
Vic frame
exactly.
cars and whatever, the Mercury one or whatever. So the inventory was
Grand
there,
Marquis.
and there were a dime a dozen because it wasn't any kind of sports car or hot rod or anything else. And so, and there are still some people that build cars on that frame, but not very many, and not.
Well,
I can't remember
we-
last time I saw one.
we
at
had a
IMCA,
meeting with
but-
all the car builders in casino over in Council Bluffs, and we kind of went over this part of the new sport mod rules, and they all went ballistic because they wanted the sport mod to be used modifieds. And I made the point. I said, well, what happens if somebody buys a brand new sport mod, doesn't convert a used modified? Oh, they'd never do that. Never. I mean, no,
Mhm.
that'd be stupid.
That was like
And the price of
17
sport
years
mods
ago.
now are
About the same
Panel?
price as a modified.
Yeah, sometimes you got to sell what people want to. I don't. You have the best.
well,
idea
that was
in
the
the
car
world.
builders who wanted that,
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a good idea that the parts were all there. That thing was built for a long time, well into the 2000s or better with that exact same frame. So the idea was sound. I liked it, and the
Yeah.
whole
Hey,
three
Dave,
link.
what about jack bolts and stock cars?
Gotta have them. Well, you gotta have them.
You still seeing guys that don't have them?
Not
I
since
haven't.
Thursday.
I haven't noticed any that don't have any, but the whole idea of where it belongs and why they're doing what they're doing by moving them around. So,
But you can't move it, right?
you can't move the jack bolt. I had this on a mod last night, Monday night. No, I'm sorry, Saturday night maybe. The guy had it was a car and it had a bolt-in bracket for the jack mount on the mod, and you could move it around. So I told him, I said, the rule forever in all divisions that have jack bolts, other than like late model, is it has to be in the original center line of the OEM spring. So there's only one spot for that. So your left and right would never be in different spots.
In a mod or a
because
stock car?
any of them, mod, stock car, sport mod, there's only one spot. So when this thing has slots in a hole and everything and moves it around, and the one on this side is over here and the one on this side is way out here, and one of them is wrong, and it's usually pretty easy to explain. I'll be like, this is the rule. Look at this side, now look at this side. Which one of these is wrong? One of them's wrong because they're not in the same place. It can be that simple an explanation, but it needs to be. In a stock car in particular, it has always been the limiter of where the A-frame can go, because the rule is pretty open. It says A-frames may be moved, right? So we're using a spec upper,
A-frame.
which
The upper A-frame. Can be
correct
moved,
upper A-frame.
not the lower.
Yeah, well, you could do a lot of things once. Anyways, the upper A-frame is a spec piece, so it's not going to go anywhere but on top of the rail. But then they figure out, well, we want more left front camber, and the evolution is inevitable to a degree, but some stuff is what I refer to as a day one rule. It's never been any different. So then guys got a little smarter when they want to move them. They start using this spacer like years ago. We used to use them, you just adjusted it underneath. But then that evolved into a mechanical advice that cost too much money, really, where you could put the ratchet and the extension up in the bottom and crank it from the bottom. And I'm like, this is all kind of getting kind of dumb. And the limits, what I call the inherent limiters built into the OEM clip and the front suspension being based on an OEM car, even if it's aftermarket frame, it's still based on the OEM car. So the AFCO piece just has a lot of things done a car builder would have done anyways. So it should save time and money to have that done, but it just gets out of hand. And then it's not the direction. We talk a lot about the direction we want a division to go. So I don't think anybody would argue that stock car racing is some of the best racing we got day in and day out. So not going to let that get beyond that. We're not going to let the car builders or some smart guy who thinks I'm going to move everything all over the place ruin that,
Or we're not going to ruin it. One
Correct.
rule at a time, right?
One rule at a time, apparently. Depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
But it's
matter of opinion, I
so the
guess.
jack bolt thing, it's super simple and it's not new. It's in the OEM, in the original center line of the OEM spring. So this year we tried to pick the simplest wording because when we do the rules, they got to fit on the sheet. We try real hard to keep them on the sheet, right? I mean, you start adding pages, and then the tech manual gets longer, and all that stuff costs money. And so anyways, it needs to be in the original center line of the OEM spring. And it's not very hard to look at it and realize when this one's way out here and this one's here that something's wrong and maybe you should investigate what that is.
Unfortunately, though, at times the racer has not knows. The racer, generally speaking, most guys are buying cars.
That's
some
right.
guys are building them still, but you have a lot of unsuspecting racers. They're going to buy a car. You know, they don't want no problems with it. If they're going to race IMCA, usually they say, "I'm racing IMCA. I want an IMCA legal car." And yeah, there you go. A guy buys a XYZ chassis, whatever it may be. You know, from a chassis manufacturer, he shows up, and then you show up and say, "Oh, wait, by the way, your screw jack's in the wrong location. You got to fix it now." It's kind of a pain in the ass for the racer, to be quite honest. But unfortunately, there's a lot of unsuspecting racers that just don't know. You know, and
It's
sometimes
true,
I wonder if they know, but
And that's my answer to that is that's why we print the rules. And that's why we have a monthly newsletter to update everybody and clarify. There's pictures in there. I mean, still catching guys with bad carbs every now and then, these holly carbs with the wrong boosters.
But that's something that probably will never go away, to be quite honest.
Well,
Because
people are never going to stop trying, but
you know, get how many carb modifiers are out there that could put the wrong booster in? Quite a few. That's a little bit different issue to me.
We're 2 years into that deal, honestly, and the engine builder who sells those with his carb knows, because I certainly have disqualified enough of those guys along the way.
Yeah.
And the carb builder knows my 10 phone calls in 7 days and my 2 voicemails I left him, never has called me back.
But it's your fault.
Somehow it is.
Yeah.
No, it's sad, and let me tell you, disqualifying a car sucks. It's awful, you know.
Yep.
Particularly if it's somebody's kid, you know, the compact kids, you know.
Yep.
And you're like some kid's big finish, big win, or just first time the tech is.
Most drivers are somebody's kids.
Yeah, I suppose it's possible.
Duh. I mean, they'd have to be. You'd have to have a parent.
But I'm talking
to be a
about
kid.
less, minors.
Minors, yeah, kids,
So-
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
You
some
know,
guy-
when you got a kid who's, 15 racing a sport mod or a stock car, he's not going
Right.
to know this is where it needs to be, or this is what I have to do. It's up to mom and it's up to dad to say, okay, I know. But sometimes you get into that situation, Dave.
Real
Dad
good.
doesn't even know.
Real good example of that is Jake McBurney, right? He's a little younger, and he's in the
Used
Super
to be.
Nationals
He's older
post-race
now.
tech net, and he gets disqualified, and he's sitting there on the tire on the ground, and his face is in his hands, you know what I mean? And it was going to be his big moment, It could have been his big moment anyways, but it wasn't. And I thought, this is awful. This job sucks. But it doesn't suck.
Light and
because-
steering box, right?
No,
Yeah.
that was a different year.
Oh, it was a different year.
No.
But anyways, the time with the jack bolt and the spring plate on the back of the sport mod, that year was the year I remember.
Oh.
But the only good ending to that was he won the race eventually, right? He came back. I told him that night. I said, good job, because I think the steering box won. He got DQ'd for the steering box and then turned around and qualified and came back and won the race. Is that in the same year?
I think
Yes.
so.
I think
Might
so.
have been.
Yeah.
So
well,
I made sure to congratulate him on not giving up and not quitting, because so many guys were like, I'm just going to load up and go home. I said, well, you're not going to win a thing there.
Well, Thornton got disqualified that one year out of the Tech 10 and came back and won the Super Nationals.
yeah.
His
that
car,
happens.
and I think that was when the lower control arm was in the wrong location or something like that.
Mm.
yeah,
I
because they had to
remember
do some cutting or something.
he had
to
a torch
fabricate
or
it.
grinder or something over there, and he fixed it.
Did Strickler ever win it?
What?
Super Nationals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Couple
got
times.
DQ'd, remember, for the wheel sticker that one time?
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I do remember
Oh,
that.
the old Tech tent was the worst because you're stacked in there, And if you're in the middle and you get DQ'd right off the bat,
You're there for a while.
you're
stuck.
stuck. And you
Yeah.
got to sit in there and
You're trapped.
you're trapped, yeah.
It's kind
All
of like
right,
the walk
so-
of shame. It's like the park of shame.
Yeah.
So Dave, let's talk about it because you brought it up a couple times. Qualifying features over at Boone. I guess I could just walk us through Super Nationals Tech. Like from what happens on the infield to then when, after a heat race, we all know the obvious, you come across the scale, but there's more to it. What happens down there on the infield?
So it starts in the infield, and Brett told me a long time ago, every inspection's a visual inspection first. We're looking at everything. Catch a lot of stuff just looking at it, just stand there looking at it. Like, why is your crate seal head bolt over on the other side of the engine? You don't have to be super smart to get that one. But anyways.
It went through the production line backwards.
Yeah. Maybe it was a left-handed guy.
Mcburney surely put the wrong glove on the beer.
But the infield is to get it. I mean, every heat race stops, we get hoods off. There's always a certain amount of tech guys down there. And we're looking for the obvious. And really the goal here is to make sure that a car that clearly just isn't legal isn't going to make the qualifying feature. Because there's guys that finish behind that guy that could have perfectly legal cars that they want to be in a show too, and they should be qualified if they're legal and the other guy isn't. So the hoods come off. We usually look at carbs. If anything's going to really get changed in a hurry, it's going to be a bolt-on item like a wheel, tire, wheel spacer, carb, shock, something in there that's going to be easy on, easy off. Which is why I always like to check any kind of B feature or anything for the most part, other than Super Nationals, because that's in the middle of the night. But anyways, we do the obvious down there. We look, we make sure everything's 100% from what we can see in the minute that you get to look at a car. But if it's real obvious, then we want to let them know, and they're going to have to change and fix that and give it another shot. So, and the good thing about Super Nationals, there is another shot and another shot typically. So you get multiple opportunities to get in the show. But that happens down there. They get weighed. Sometimes we do things like wheelbase or engine setback or carbs a lot. That one day at the LCQ on Saturday, all we did was take the hood off the mods and oops, bad crate. Right?
Yep.
That guy.
Sometimes you don't even see a car down there till the end of the week.
That's right, till the LCQ.
And those are the unfortunate situations where you got a guy that doesn't have a second shot and he gets bounced and it's over. And even at Super Nationals, again, any DQs generally speaking are what I consider event ruiners. They spoil the week because the points associated with it. So it spoils the week from the standpoint of more than likely the racer that gets any DQ whatsoever is going to lose enough points where they're not going to be in any of the last chance races at the front. They'll be in them, but they're not going to be starting up front, and especially in divisions like sport mods and hobby stocks where they're LCQs or 30 cars. We don't take any provisionals or anything like that. Boom, you're if you get DQ'd and you're pretty much toast at the Super Nationals. The DQ there really does sting. That's why we talk about it quite a bit. I'll tell Dave this. I don't want no stupid DQs. Don't want nothing that's not. Yeah. That doesn't matter. And we try to classify that stuff in our rule book as.
Yeah, because not everything is a DQ. Right. There are things that you need to fix. Sometimes the rules aren't about speed or whatever. It's just not the direction we want the division to go, right? So those rules exist in there. So not everything's a DQ, because I get those messages and all that all the time too. Well, if a guy this, then how come he didn't get DQ'd? Because it's not a DQ.
Correct.
So the things that matter most or have the biggest impact, and sometimes it's cost, it's simply because we're not going down that road because that's going to be expensive. And racing's very cyclical. What comes around goes around again. And so we don't have to relive that all the time. It was like when we got rid of the torque arm. Remember we got rid of the torque arm because there weren't any. There were very few. And then all of a sudden, few car builders and torque arms, building cars with torque arms. And who gets a torque arm car? Well, you get guys like Keith White and David Murray, and you could probably pick a couple of other names from that era, yeah. And they had them, but they're winning everything anyways. But what it would have done was pushed everybody like, oh, I got to buy another car. I got to buy a torque arm car.
It changes the market potentially. Yeah. It changes the market. So some of those decisions for us are ones of direction, like we talk about. Do we want all our modifieds going torque arms? And at the time we didn't.
Yeah, and it would have just took us around the horn again, because eventually, I guarantee we'd have been back to pull bars again. Perhaps. So somebody would have made pull bars great again, and all of a sudden everybody had to have pull bar car again. So you head that off. So
one of the things at Super Nationals that, for years, I mean, that's why we did pre-tech. We tried to catch the DQs, to avoid the DQs in the infield or even post-race, because in the pre-tech, you have a little bit more time than just in between heat races in the infield at the Super Nationals. So, the pre-tech was developed primarily because of that. But the problem we started getting into is the volume of cars that we've got. It became, we were pre-teching more than we were racing
COVID put
for
us
the first 3 days.
COVID put us in a situation where the pre-tech had to now become, here's what you're going to look at. You need to police your car.
And you really had to hurry up in pre-tech, because, and as the event got bigger and bigger, and then we're really hurrying up, and then so are we really helping these guys that much? And the thing that's been said many times is the rules haven't changed, been the same rule all year.
Right.
But a little bit of where you race sometimes, if they're not super techy at your racetrack and whatnot, you might have some things that you didn't really think about or that you didn't care about. Yeah, that's how he gets home, too, by the way. Drive a car just like that.
Earth to Jim.
Is he out? Welcome back,
Jim don't want to talk rules.
I hate you, Jim.
Jim don't like rules.
I hate you, right, Jim?
I'm a big fan of alternative rules. I think that's something we need to explore more.
Well, it'd be a shorter explanation.
Yeah. So now I've won my heat race.
Yep.
I've passed my heat race.
Yep.
I go to the feature,
Mm-hmm.
and I've gotten the top 4. Now I do this. I come through. I made my weight. I made my wheelbase. Everything looks good. I park on the infield, wait for the other 4, and then we go to what's always been dubbed as a circus tent.
So you're going to come to the post-race tech tent, which gratefully now is a really nice place. We used to stuff them in there, and sometimes you'd have half of the front one out the old tent and half of the last place car out the back tent to try to get them all in there. But got a really nice place to tech now, too, so that gratefully the Speedway and everything has evolved with the event. So, but you go there, and there are a bunch of guys there. I'll be there. Kirk will be there. Randy Anderson will be there from Late Models. Randy also techs weekly tracks too. So, and there's a bunch of tech guys that we've kind of assembled over time, and then some come and some go, and then there's usually some new guys for the experience. But you're going to get tech by a bunch of weekly tech guys, really good guys usually. I mean, sometimes we get new guys in there just for the experience. It's good to come and learn. So, like we had Tyler Stevenson from Utah or somewhere out there, come and show up last year, and he worked a couple of days, and so it was nice to get somebody new in there. But that really helps for the consistency. So when I show up at that guy's racetrack, we've already worked together. But you're going to get your car teched by these guys. We have a list that we go down, and we don't always do everything on the list, but we highlight typically, let's do this, and sometimes based on what's trending throughout the year. So that's how we decide. And so, anyways, you'll get inspected, and everything's okay. You're probably going to need a tool or two and a wrench to get something apart and back together, because we take them pretty far sometimes. And then things get sealed and marked and logged, like if you got a crate engine, we're logging the tags and everything, so you race the same motor. We mark carburetors after we gauge carbs and all that. We mark all those, and then we started doing this before the main event, walking through the lineup area and walking through and make sure the rev limiters are set right and making sure the carburetors are still the same carburetors they had.
You mean so after you win a qualifier at Super Nationals, you've been pre-teched, you've been post-race teched, your car's been marked, all the seals and anything that might be something that's somewhat changeable. We've got security seals that you put all over everything. You actually go back and check all that stuff before they race?
And we look at it's usually it's me and a couple of other guys out in the lineup area, and you got to hustle because Boone doesn't mess around.
The word on the street is you can cheat and win the Super Nationals.
Do anything you want.
Anything you want come Saturday night.
I guarantee you somebody's cheated somewhere at every racetrack and gotten away with it somewhere. So I'd never say anything's impossible, but we certainly are not just sitting back. And
we have precautions in place to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's right.
On most of the major components, they are taped up, sealed up, and that's just a bunch of shit when you hear that.
Yep.
Yeah, and everybody has an opinion because they don't have the total view. I would say before I started working here full time, I did not have the total view of the business. I worked for some good promoters, and I was happy about that. And then working Super Nationals, of course, I learned every year. My first year of Super Nationals, only worked the infield. I didn't work the post-race tech tent.
We wouldn't let you in there.
Well,
There was a bigger picture at that time.
Yeah, we were
just didn't
afraid you're going to do
realize
something
it was
crazy.
my first year being a tech guy,
That was
too.
your vetting
Bob
process.
Ross
Yeah,
showed up.
we were vetting you.
I was working in Salina, Kansas, and Bob Ross showed up. It was my first year being the tech guy, and he asked me if I want to come to Super Nationals. I'm like, yeah, I do.
But
So
the pre-race, we have I don't know what you even call it, pre-race tech sheets. We used to do when we pre-teched, we had the inspection sheet, and we designed that based on a little bit of a time factor, so you could actually inspect things that mattered. And then when they got to the infield, there's another inspection that kind of confirmed the pre-tech. And then when you get into post-race, we have another post-race inspection that you guys follow. That's all documented in our, we keep them, all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, the goal is to get all of those cars legal by the time we get to the feature. We've got legal cars in the feature, and the guy who wins the race is following the rules, and the guy who wins the Super Nationals isn't.
Yeah,
the master cheater of
we have
everything.
been over it and over it, multiple times during the event, and then that guy might be in some other races, and he still gets looked at for those events too.
And it all gets back, I think, to at the end of the day, I think it all gets back to the goal as an association, and even as racing in general. The goal is not to disqualify the winners. Fans pay, racers pay, sponsors, you got sponsors, you've got fans, there's a lot of people that are involved in racing in any of these divisions, not just Super Nationals, but even weekly. And by the time you get to the end of the feature on whatever the night may be or wherever the event may be, having that guy get disqualified is not a goal. It's not something that we as an association hang our hat on and say, wow, we ended this perfect. We disqualified the guy and cost him $5,000.
Anticlimactic.
It is, and I think when people look at the Super Nationals and how our approach to that from start to finish, that's basically our philosophy on how we think the race should go. You've got the steps in place to address the things as they go, remove the race cars that aren't legal if they need to be. But when you get to the end of the finale, the final race for each one of those divisions, and they're the biggest races in IMCA, the Super Nationals. Winning the feature at the Super Nationals is the biggest race we have on any of our divisions in our association, in our opinion. It is the one to win. If you win that one, it may not pay as much as some other races, but it's the biggest race in IMCA for the year, every year, in our opinion. And to have that spoiled by a guy getting disqualified, it just doesn't. It just cheats everybody.
Yeah,
the product is cheated at that point.
Let's play a quick game. Let's call this our speed round. We're gonna throw questions to Dave, and he has a minute to answer each question.
Oh my gosh, how many questions do we have?
One.
Well, how many minutes do
Are we
we
at
have?
an hour?
We've already went an hour.
I think we've
You
gone
didn't
an
say
hour.
a
Okay.
minute for the length
Real
of the
quick,
answer.
stock car bodies, Dave. You have 1 minute. Go now.
Stock car body. It's got to
1 minute.
My one-liner for that, it's got to look like what it's supposed to be. If a stock car guy can't figure it out, just look at the hobby stock guys because they don't seem to have them problems. Stock
Deck
car
height,
body.
Dave. Deck height in all divisions. 1 minute.
42
Go now.
inches. 42 inches on the rear for deck height. 8 inches the nose clearance. Be all steel body except you can make your own hood and trunk, but they have to be duplicates of the OEM piece.
So they got to look like the
Okay,
inches.
shock rules on the rear of stock cars. Go now. 1 minute.
Shock rule on the rear of stock car has to have at least 4.5 inches of rebound travel. That means shaft in the shock at the end of the race. You can have an adjustable mount on top to accommodate that because if you're going to put rounds in the spring, you're probably going to mess up your shock setting. So 4.5 inches of rebound has to be sitting in that spring when you come to tech. We tech the cars the way they're raced. That means driver in the car.
Here's how about
must compress.
compressing a shock. Can you use bulldozers, forklifts, anything like that, tanks, anything like that? Dave, go now. 1 minute.
Bulldozer to racetrack, but to the bottom. It's got to go to the bottom. One guy pushing on the shock. The rule says at any time, and that any time for us. The way we enforce the rule.
Does it have to be the driver?
Not necessarily the driver, your pit crew guy. Most guys have big pit crew guys. So I like pit crew guys. So I'll let that guy do it. If I have one big pit crew guy in there that's phenomenally larger than anybody else, then I usually get him to do them all. But one guy pushing it to the bottom.
Why no ethanol in stock cars? 1 minute, go now.
Ethanol is kind of a high-maintenance fuel. It's very hygroscopic, so it attracts water even much more than methanol, even out of the atmosphere. So if you're not sealing up your ethanol car and everything like that, it's probably drawing water. And it's high maintenance, and if you don't take care of it,
Okay.
burn down a motor.
Aftermarket transmission sport mods. 1 minute, go now.
No aftermarket transmission, a sport mod. Must be in the OEM case. All the forward gears plus reverse have to work.
I think that covers our shotgun round.
Favorite sandwich? 1 minute, go.
Anyone that's
Capicola.
open. Anything's got the door open.
That's not true. I see his expense report. He eats consistently a lot of the same stuff.
Do you?
I do.
So, we are creatures of habit.
If I was on an island and had to pick 10 things to eat, I could pick 10, and I'd be all fine with that. That'd be fine. What?
Are you okay?
I don't think I need a big, broad palate to work at the racetrack.
Hot dogs, hamburgers, tenderloins,
There you go.
All the above.
chicken strips.
Maybe not on the same day.
Maybe all the same day.
And
Maybe all the same sitting.
If I could add one point to the post race or to the Super National inspection is that my experience for all the time I've been there is a certain amount of respect from everybody for the event. So other people that complain about your event or the Super Nationals and say, well, they don't do this or they do that and don't do that, et cetera. You know what? Everybody knows. So there's a certain amount of respect for the other racers, for the event and the rules that really comes out at Super Nationals. And
Just to give everybody an idea how far tech has come at the Super Nationals, my first Super Nationals working for IMCA, in your driver's packet, you had a self-tech sheet. You had to check your car and sign that it's legal. There was no post-race tent. There was nothing like that.
Check yes,
If
check
you had
no.
that signed, checked, you're good to go. The first year we
Scouts
put up
honor.
a tent there, Scouts honor.
Who'd
First
know
time
that
we
car
put up a
better
tent
than the
there,
guy that owned it.
everybody kept wanting to know what the tent was for. Well, you'll see. Finally, we said, okay, modified stop 4. Bring your car up to the tent and, get your tools. Well, what tools do we need? I said, you better bring all of them.
Your toolbox.
All of them.
Just bring your truck and
And-
trailer.
And I remember the first thing we did was we wanted to see the front end, everything off the front end. That's when traction control was kind of a deal. And you had everybody's saying there was those lines running from the brakes to wherever. And they said, well, what do you want us to take off the front end? And the front end is what we want you to take off. If it bolts on, take it off. And that was the beginning of
Then we took the
The
seats
circus
out
tent.
one year.
Yeah.
yeah, we took the seats out. Yeah, I
Take your
remember
seat
that.
out.
I bet I can guess where that came from.
We've taken about everything off a race car.
Oh,
in the tech
yeah.
tent.
Yeah.
It really took them for a surprise, back in those days. They weren't used to.
And again, I
had
think the racers
tech like that.
appreciate it. To be quite honest, I mean, I'm there's some very high. There's a lot of emotion in the tech tent. You know,
see the highs and lows
You
right
see
there.
the highs and
That's
you see
where
the
you
lows.
see
They
it the
come in
most.
and you see
It's
people
kind of like
crying.
the thrill of
you see-
victory and the agony of defeat.
Yes, you see people come
Yeah.
into that tech tent and they're on cloud 9. They're families. They're on phones. They're calling people to book flights. I mean, we've seen it all in that thing, and then we've seen the opposite to where you trap a car in the park of shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
See the
sit
same
there.
guy come
It's-
back to Dave 6 times. Now it says here. Now it says here.
Yeah,
now it
he's
says.
trying to convince me,
Yeah.
and
He's trying. They're trying to sell it that hey,
Yeah.
we didn't know, or hey, this says this, and that's why we did that. But it doesn't.
So,
The interpretation of how one takes it can always be.
Yeah. The best part of Super Nationals tech is when a guy is all set to go and he's all sealed back up. And particularly if they're young and their mom and their whole family is outside the tent and they get to give away those hoods and doors and quarters that we give out. It's a super keepsake thing, I think. And so I kind of worked up a bit about that, and I'm like, I tell them, get your phone out. We're going to.
Dave's Zig Ziglar moment.
That's right. And so, and you get to congratulate them, and they're in the show, and sometimes people are crying and everything else. It's all right.
It runs the gamut there from super happy to super not happy.
Yeah, it
Real
goes
damn
the other way,
pissed
too.
But it's all part of it.
Like, put your phone away.
So for those that are listening that are going to race like the next week, Dave, you're going to be at Iowa Speed Weeks. Can you tell everybody exactly what you're going to check every night so they know their cars are legal?
No. I try to keep up with what's trendy.
That was quick.
That was very
Didn't need the 1 minute there.
Whoa.
It's
Real
like-
quick.
1 second,
We
go.
got 30
it's like
seconds.
what's trendy, and been going around a lot that people shouldn't be doing. And, there's only so many of us and thousands of other people just inventing crap every day
Heck yeah.
to put on a race car. And so you really got to keep up with all that. But if I can see the race, sometimes that dictates what I looked at. But otherwise, I look at every race car every single time, even from the heat to the main, like I never saw it before. And that Super Nationals inspection,
You don't check by car number?
no.
I hear this.
Yeah, I know everybody thinks it's about them.
Those
They
Kansas
think-
guys get away with everything because Dave's from
So
Kansas.
if that was
yeah.
me at the Super Nationals, you would actually disqualify me?
Yeah.
How dare
Yeah.
you?
You know what?
I'd ask you
Who
to
do you
go.
think you are?
Hopefully you never need the flipping shoes or gloves or anything. But I've told my go-to one-liner for that is like, you can die at your house, but you ain't gonna do it right here in front of us. So that has happened before.
If you want to burn your feet off, do it at home, not here.
Yeah, there's people. So one time we got to go to the Cape
Michael
testing.
Scott almost burned his feet off.
Who did?
Michael Scott from The Office.
From the office.
So we went to the Cape.
Got it. Stepped on his George Foreman grill while
He
we were
did.
making bacon in bed.
He did while he was making his bacon in bed. That was the best open of any show ever.
No, Tom and I, when Tom was here, we went to the Cape testing facility in Indy before PRI. And they do SFI testing and other things there. And certainly the most entertaining and interesting thing is they got a giant block of concrete and they've got that sled. And they test everything from Indy cars to school buses. And it just comes ripping down the runway and bam, slides into the sled. And they do all these slow motion stuff. And you get to really see what occurs in a crash. But it's the
Well,
place where...
we kind of do the same stuff. A lot of times we'll run a car into a light pole at Boone Speedway during the Super Nationals and watch the lights fall on it and
We've been doing
see how it absorbs energy.
doing your
Yeah, but people don't like that. They get mad at us. We try to do all of our testing at Boone Speedway now in the cruiser division.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Oh,
Don't put your helmet. Don't buckle your helmet.
that was the day I was there.
Don't wear your seatbelt. All
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
But my
Is
point
it almost
is,
lunchtime?
I'm hungry.
So I mean, because
been
Brett
talking
did.
forever.
Brett
I can
did
talk
test,
all day.
Brett did
if
test
you go,
this part of the original sport mod one time, and it held up
It did.
until one time.
And that's where the crotch strap rule came into play.
oh God, I spent one Super Nationals
submarine
looking in the
belt.
lap of every single driver one time because somebody didn't have one. And
Yeah.
no, but the Cape deal comes back to they do SFI testing and other stuff, and the ratings on a fire suit and the ratings on the gloves and how many seconds you need
Yeah.
to get it all that gets real important.
It does.
And then there's always the gross photos of all the things that
Oh, yeah.
have gone wrong. And so when a guy gets DQ'd for no gloves and no shoes, and he feels like I got away with it, nothing happened. But we're not going to continue to take that risk. And if we let that happen, then everybody will do it. And they'll be like, well, I'll do it
And
till
you-
they
a
tell
lot of-
me.
Do you like to walk?
Speaking of gross photos, we got the Super Nationals coming up.
Where are you going with this, Jim?
Yeah, where's this going?
I'm just saying, I've seen a lot of gross photos.
There has been.
There's a whole bunch of them on Jerry's phone, I believe.
You texted him to me.
Real quick, back to SFI because this is important too. SFI Safety, Foundation Incorporated. They do all this testing. They
Yep.
test the gloves. They test seat belts. There's a lot of SFI ratings, and as an association, what we have to do is we have to be a part of that of SFI. We pay them a monthly fee. It's not free. For some associations, they think it is, but it's not. In order to put SFI in our rules, we have to pay a monthly fee to SFI to be a part of that association, and they do all the testing for us. They somewhat, or at least on those components that we mandate that are SFI, because they've done that testing, they've did the legwork, and we pay a fee for that, and it keeps our racers safe. We try to every year. We usually get 1 or 2 items that SFI tags are being counterfeited on driving suits. That's usually the ones that we see. It's hard to believe, but it happens. They aren't just counterfeiting wheel stickers from IMCA. They are actually counterfeiting SFI tags that cut the amount of time that component that
if it even helps at all.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me what people
don't buy your fire suit.
The lengths people will go to, but when you cut, when you say it's SFI rated, the racer buys that component thinking I've got 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever that tag is gonna tell you.
What I always get is,
and it's fake.
In these economic times,
it's crazy
to save a little bit of money. Have you ever considered alternative SFI rules?
No.
But that's what I've always said. Somebody
I don't even know what that would look like.
Yeah, somebody will spend.
It kind of look like our rules, but not really.
Yeah, don't buy your fire suit on Alibaba.com.
Yeah,
I bet money.
But you think about it. Somebody will spend $1,000 on something that'll get them 2/10 faster.
Yeah.
But then you see them come in a one layer fire suit with holes in it and this and that. But you're thinking to yourself, okay, so you'll spend
more worried
this.
about performance.
You're more
than
worried
they are
about this
safety.
than your life.
Yeah.
And while we're on that, people have always said to us, why don't you mandate this? Why don't you mandate that? Why don't you mandate this? And we look at safety equipment in particular, whether it be gloves and shoes and fire suits or stuff like helmets, Hans devices, things like that. There's a lot of personal choice in some of those selections. You can buy very, very nice fire suits, but they're extremely expensive. So people ask us why we don't mandate stricter safety restrictions, and what we have always said is, we're giving you the minimums, the industry standards, the minimum industry standards for those items.
Here's what
SFI
you have to meet.
Categorizes them, and here's what SFI says. This is essentially the minimum standard, and so that's what we try to follow. And a racer can always go better. How come people say, how come you don't mandate?
No Mex underwear,
head and neck
Hans,
restraints.
this or that,
Head and neck restraints are very proven. Dave just talked about the sled, and they're very proven to be very beneficial to people who wear them. But they're also expensive, and so we can write rules to rule racers out of racing with expense. You can do it with safety equipment. We can do it with engines. We can do it with all kinds of components. But at the end of the day, you got to have the racer has to have a little bit of personal choice.
Here's where you need to be now. What's your life worth?
And what we
above
do
that?
is appropriate for the kind of racing we're doing and the size of the tracks and the speeds of the cars and all that.
And
you don't need a TV racing setup in your car to race a car at 50, 60 miles an hour.
Once,
some of them aren't even going that fast.
the other good reason to always have your fire suit on, especially at the Super Nationals, you never know when Greg Lance is going to show up to the Super Nationals. And it's probably key to have a fire suit on, because the one year where he thought it would be fun to put 2 bottles of moonshine in a watermelon. It took about a day and a half to get 2 bottles of moonshine in a watermelon. And then Greg was going to see if the watermelon was flammable. So he lit it, and the watermelon lit, and he got a little bit nervous and dropped it and kicked it, and it went down pit road on fire. So that's another good reason to always have a fire suit, because you never know when Greg Lance is going to test out the flaming watermelons at Boone Speedway.
I'm going to think about that all the way to the racetrack today.
Oh, I got the visual in my mind.
Hell?
And, you try to kick
what
it,
else?
and it just keeps rolling flames.
Well, I think we're well over our time.
Oh, we are.
Are we already?
10 hour and 20 minutes.
Flies when you're having fun.
It's okay.
For us, it's easy to. Time flies, but
How about Race Savers next Monday night at Oskaloosa in the Front Row Challenge?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, still. Why don't you stay
flagging?
home?
Well, Race Savers
you
will
racing?
be running, but I won't be there. But
Not
Are you
racing.
flagging that night?
Yeah, I'll flag the race.
Wait a
no,
second.
it's a great way. I mean,
You flag too?
I can do a
the
little bit of
Race
everything. I
Savers-
can't always do it right, but I can do it.
How fast is a race saver
Yeah,
sprint
how
going in
fast?
Oskaloosa?
Pardon me.
How fast is a race saver
You ever
sprint
had
going
any
in
instances
Oskaloosa?
flagging,
Fast.
Jerry, where you have
They
to
haul
make a
ass,
split
Dave.
decision to
Yeah.
call?
Yeah, I screw them up most of the time, but that'll be for number 17.
That's what I read on the internet.
Wow, you got to believe it. It's on the internet.
So again, Speed Week
I read
this
that too.
week.
Yeah.
Harris Clash tomorrow.
Came right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Big night for the
Harris
modified and
Clash,
sport mods.
Yep.
Harris Clash is always a good race for us. Night of 1,000 Stars always excellent. A little hot this week, but hey.
I think tomorrow's supposed to be the warmest day, and it's supposed to be tolerable for the most part.
Yeah.
The remainder of the week, they changed it up just a little bit.
Yep. Hasn't rained in it rained here last night.
I got 3
Yeah,
tenths
you guys
last
got
night.
rain here. We got none at home or at Marshalltown. So I was like,
You got
whoa.
3 tenths last night, Ryan?
In the rain gauge, Jim.
Yes, in the rain
man,
gauge.
That's what you call it now. Anyway, but other than that, it's going to be a
That's
long
what
week
you
of
kids are
racing. It's going to
calling
be a
it.
good week. All the
That's what she
IMCA
said.
Speed Weeks are going to be on IMCA TV, so you can tune them in.
Hey, one last thing.
Super Dave and
I
I are
wanna
heading
give-
to Spencer today.
Yeah.
A big shout out
And Jim.
to the Sadoff family for running 1, 2, 3 in the modifieds at Eagle Saturday night.
Huh?
Jackson won, Johnny was second, and Jordan Sadoff was third.
Oh, you're going to get in trouble for that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already got a text back from him because I sent him a text congratulating him. And
It's a tough crowd.
It is a tough crowd
Wow.
when Jim's around.
as much
We are
shit as
so-
we can say on this show, I can't read that text back.
We are so mean.
Mean people.
Yeah.
That was
should
last
always-
episode, Mean 15, wasn't it?
It was a Serena.
Oh,
where we
so
talked
no, we
Serena.
can go
Oh,
mean.
yes, because I asked people.
Serene 15.
Yeah,
so it's
so
the
some-
Mean 17 next episode.
Okay, it'd be the mean. So that's when we can get like down and dirty and stuff and not talk about
How about the smart ass
Corn.
17?
corns.
How about the NC 17?
Ooh, I like
Ooh,
that.
I like
Ooh,
that.
NC
Yeah, I
17.
watched some of
We'll
those
take the
movies
gloves
back
off.
in the day.
17.
Be a little risque, but yet not full on.
Yeah.
Girls jumping on
Like,
trampolines.
right on the edge
I mean, we're there all
of
the
the
time.
FCC shutting us down, like Howard Stern.
I don't think they can shut us down on the internet.
Yeah,
They can try.
we're safe.
We're safe. We got Super Dave. He'll interpret the rule.
Well, thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for taking 6 months to get over here, Dave.
I was busy.
Dave, if you and I leave
Working
here
like a
at the-
dog.
busy.
Working
Got
like a dog.
schedule.
yeah, if you and I leave here at the same time today, who's getting to Spencer first?
You are.
You'll be gone before he
I'll
even
have to
gets there.
I get to blow a half a tank now. I'd like to stop and fill up.
Oh, so
And then I'm starting to get up there in age a little bit, so I have to stop and empty. So, yeah, you'll get there first.
all right.
Well,
But Dave
Jerry,
will
the
be
good
there.
news is
Yeah.
I'll get to see it tonight.
Oh my gosh. I don't.
Like a podcast reunion.
So are you going? You are going tonight?
Yeah, I gotta go to Spencer tonight.
Yeah, if you haven't been there, I mean, one thing about this job, don't necessarily get to watch a lot of races, but I watch a lot on IMCA TV, and it's usually playing in the background on my Monday, Tuesday mornings when the phone's really ringing and whatnot. But Spencer it's big and it's plenty fast, but how the racing is so close.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and these other places, I mean, I'm going all week through Saturday. So when I get to this end of the planet over here, I like to get as many places as I can get. And I was a little disappointed Vinton wasn't racing last night, or I would have been there. But
Well, they're gonna
It
be
was a
racing.
beautiful night.
They're gonna be
too.
racing next Sunday for the Bald Tired
Bash.
Nationals.
Bald
Bald Tired Bash.
Tired.
yeah, that's
Where you
not-
got to have a tire that
Bash.
measures 3/16 or less when you start the feature
And your heat race.
and your heat race. Yeah.
everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, stock cars.
Stock cars.
Oh,
See,
just
Dave
stock
doesn't
cars.
even know about this.
No, I read it, but I didn't really pay attention to that. Was everybody running 3/16?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna
See,
have
so
to.
I mean, you're going to.
you're not gonna get to go on the track
Yeah.
otherwise.
So
What
we're
is-
going to need you to be there on that.
What is the
Sunday.
original tread depth of the
Plus, they're going to tire test.
G60?
Yeah.
So we'll do some tire tests.
Can't
I think
do-
it's like $2,000 to win, isn't it? Something
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
that.
$2,000 to win.
Yeah, so they're going to tire
So you're going to
test
send
too.
those tire samples in?
Yeah, we'll get them back probably within. Usually, it's about 3 to. It just depends. 3 to 4 days. It doesn't take our tire test 4 weeks. It takes
No,
our
it
tire
doesn't.
test 4 days. For some reason,
Well, apparently, I mean,
but
yeah.
and we'll make our decision based on that. Usually takes it's about 4 business days by the time we get it down.
So the
there.
decision's a decision.
It's a
from
lot
the-
quicker than I thought.
It is a
Yeah.
lot quicker than some people are being told.
Yeah, just like everywhere
Yep,
else.
we'll
They
tire
don't get
test.
paid till the work's done. So
Bald tires only.
they want
So
to
we'll
get
have the results back before Dave's even home from his travels.
Yeah, Dave probably won't be out of town.
Dave will probably, he'll be in like Olathe by
He'll
that
be
day.
like,
Dave's got a lot of laundry
I'm
to
just
do.
getting on the Highway 30.
You know, I hate you guys, right?
Dave, the race was 3 days ago. What are you just getting on that?
Dave, come on. Hate is a pretty powerful word. Strongly dislike, I would accept.
It's been a long.
Shoot.
I've been here much longer than I've been here.
Don't feel bad, Dave. None of us are very fond of each other either, so you're in good company.
We're just glad you're here so we can make fun of somebody new.
Yeah, I've heard there's such thing as a good kind of hurt. Is this it?
Yes, this is a good kind of hurt. This is a soft kind of pain.
All right, you guys got to go to.
We gotta go to Spencer. Brett's gonna have to become now. Hopefully, by the next episode, we got some grandbaby pictures.
Yes.
Old man. Not
Hopefully.
talking about Jim.
We're on baby watch.
This
That's
time.
hysterical, Grandpa. That is.
Yeah.
Can you believe it, Dave?
Oh yeah.
God, you're old, Brett.
I am. Jim's gonna be a grandpa too. Have we said this yet?
What?
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I got a little ways to go, though.
I got him beat.
You got me beat. I'm looking at the end of January.
See?
Wow. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I got the grandpa hair anyways. It's gray.
You've had that since you were 31. What are you talking
He's
about?
grumpy old man.
Hey,
He's the movie.
Just be happy.
I got
you
a
still
stressful
got it.
job, Jerry.
No, I know. I hear it. Yeah, my stressful job finding where the Coca-Cola's at. So with that being said, it's time to get on out of here. And ton of stuff on the schedule. Don't forget, get that, see right there, Replay Pass, $24.99. Replay only subscription includes all the above. You can read it, and it's all in HD and all of that stuff. So if you miss some of the speed weeks, maybe you wanted to go back and watch something from last week, last month, last year, it's all there for 30 days, and it's a full schedule of racing coming on up. Remember, most of those are about $25 a night, which is a lot of times on those racetracks less than the pit pass. So it's a very economical and great feature for you to go buy. So from all of us to all of you, thanks for tuning in. Make sure if you can't join us at your local IMCA racetracks, make yourself out on IMCA TV, and we will see you and hopefully Grandpa next time we come together for, is it going to be the Mean 17?
Something like that.
We're going to have
NC
17.
17.
It's NC 17. That's it. So come on in. We'll see you then. Have a great week.